All right, everyone, it's Adam Small. How's everyone doing? We're in Small's Heli hut. I'm going to do a quick video on updating the firmware on this new Scorpion Tribunis 3. This is a 220 amp, but this method will work for any of the Scorpion Tribunis 3s. So first things first, I don't have any cables or connectors connected on this thing at all yet. I'm going to set that aside. We need to go to Scorpion Power Systems. And then I sign in. And if you're not registered, you can just register as a new customer. But I'm going to sign in here. I am signed in. I'm going to go to Downloads. And I'm going to go to Programs. And right here I have Scorpion Sproto program for Tribunis. So that's what I want. If you have a trouble connecting your Tribunis to your laptop later, here is a driver that may help right here. But let's go ahead and download the Scorpion Sproto program for Tribunis. It's a quick download. I just clicked on the link. Here's the zip inside the zip file. I'm just going to double click on this file here. It says it's Windows protected, your PC. I'm going to click more info and click run anyway. And now it should be installing the Sproto platform. Okay, so now the Sproto launcher window just popped up. I'm going to click next. Standard default folder is fine. Next. And next for installation. I'm going to click yes here. I want to allow the app to make changes. Installation complete, and I'm going to close out of that. As you can see, it's the Sproto platform is automatically loading here. And I'm looking up here in the top left corner, and it looks like I'm still logged in, which is good. I'm going to click down here on Tribunis 3 configuration. When I first did this as a trial run an hour ago, there was an option down here that said install Tribunis 3 configurator. And so I clicked on that and it did it automatic, which is pretty sweet. Now it's time to connect your Tribunis 3 speed controller to your computer. We have this USB-C port on the side. The nice thing about these new Tribunis is we don't need to connect a battery to the speed controller in order to program it or update the firmware. So you want a high quality USB-C cable that can do data, not just charging. So I just plugged in the USB-C into my laptop. It should automatically download the drivers. But as I mentioned earlier, if you can't connect your speed controller to the Sproto platform, you're going to have to manually download the drivers. So let's just first of all see if mine connects. I'm going to hit this play button in the top right corner. And it looks like I'm connected. So the drivers did download automatically, okay for me. But if you look in the Tribunis 3 manual, it says if you do have trouble, you can. So I'm on the scorpionsystem.com website under downloads, and there's a Scorpion ESC USB driver. So if you have trouble connecting, try downloading this driver here, and then it's an execute file, and just execute it, and the new driver should automatically be installed on your computer. Now that your speed controller is successfully connected to the Sproto platform, the first thing I do is I'm going to check my firmware. Every speed controller from Scorpion I've received in the past, you usually get a little slip of paper like this, and it tells you what version number is installed currently on this factory speed controller. It says it has version 17 on it. So I'm going to go down here and hit this little refresh button down here in the lower right corner. And I can see here's my Tribunis 3, my serial number, bootloader, firmware. So looks like I am on the most current firmware. This says 17. And you can see over here, I have previous versions. I have 16, 15, and 14. But let's say there was a version 18, you'd see that down here, and all you'd have to do would be to install it. And it's easy as that. I'm just going to go back to this gear icon in the lower left corner, and this has the name, device mode. This is whether you want to use airplane mode or airplane with reverse. It defaults to Heli governor with recalculated maximum RPM. So these two options here are if you're going to use the internal governor with the speed controller. I know a lot of guys love it. I like using external governor. If you're a V-bar guy, the Tribunis 3 is going to be right up your alley. You just select V-bar gov, and you don't even have to do a throttle calibration. It works seamlessly with V-bar. I use a rotor flight unit, so I'm going to select external governor. BEC voltage, we have 5 volts all the way to 12.1. Just a note, if you select 8.8 volts or above and your servos aren't rated for it, you're probably going to burn them out. I'm going to be running 12 volt servos, so I'm going to select 12.1 volts. Rotation direction clockwise, I'm going to leave that. But if you notice, after you build your new helicopter, the motor's spinning the wrong way and the main rotor blades aren't turning, you could swap the motor wires, but they may be deeply hidden in the model and hard to get to. You could come here and set counterclockwise. Communication protocol, if you're a V-bar guy, then select V-bar. I'm rotor flight, so I'm going to select unsolicited communication protocol. So this is basically how your telemetry is being transmitted. So I'm selecting unsolicited. Fan on temperature, I don't have a fan. You have to buy that separately. So now that I made all these changes on this general settings page, I'm going to click upload. And it's giving me a warning that I set the BEC voltage quite high. I'm going to click OK because I'm aware. And now the ESC is resetting. There's no beeping because I don't have a motor connected. Okay, now I'm going to work left to right down here on these bottom icons. I can see the Heli symbols blocked off because I'm using external governor. Airplane symbols shadowed out because I'm in Heli mode. Now I'm going to hit the shield symbol. These are our protections. First things first, here's our cutoff delay. I'm going to leave it standard, 5,000 milliseconds. So basically, if we get a protection in the ESC, such as a minimum voltage, or we exceed a temperature or exceed a current, the speed controller will drop the power over 5,000 milliseconds. Or if that error goes away, your power is going to take 5 seconds to get restored. I'm just going to leave that to 5,000 milliseconds. Minimum voltage, I have low voltage alerts set up in my transmitter, but I will set this minimum voltage. I don't like to go lower than 3 volts per cell in this field, and I'm using 12 cell stick pack. So 3 times 12, I'm going to set 36 volts. So if I get less than 36 volts, which is quite low because I'm using my transmitter low voltage alerts, I will get the cutoff power, which will go over a little bit. You're going to notice the power is going to cut off if you drop below this voltage. Maximum temperature, 185. So if you go over this temperature, the power is going to cut off a little bit. I'm just going to set mine to 200. I'd recommend you just using default. Maximum current, this is a 220 amp speed controller. So 220 amp continuous, and it can achieve 300 amp burst. I'm just going to set 300. So if I go over 300 amps, the power is going to cut off a little bit. All right, the cutoff power level, this is how we're going to tell how much we want that power to cut off if a protection feature is activated. So 70 would be a soft cutoff. So the power is going to drop slightly. You're easily going to notice it with your ears and by feel. I'd suggest leaving it in soft. Medium or hard, you're going to get a much harder cutoff, and you may crash your helicopter if you're close to the ground. Battery capacity cutoff. This is if I use battery telemetry in my radio to tell me when to land. So I'm going to leave my battery capacity cutoff to 0. But like, let's say you have a 5,000 milliamp hour 12 cell stick pack. You could select, if you don't want to go below 50%, you could select 2.5 amps. And then if you go below that, you're going to get the power cut off. But I don't want my power cutting off if my battery level gets too low. My transmitter is going to tell me already. So I'm going to leave that to 0. That way I don't get a cut off. Demagnetization, protection, safety margin, I'm going to leave that to default. And that's what the manual suggests. And voltage output limiter, I'm going to leave that to disabled. And this is grayed out, so there's no selection. And then I'm going to click upload now that I'm done with my protection page. Okay, now I'm moving to the right. I click on this wrench symbol. Sound volume. So if your motor's beeping too loud when you're first plugging in your battery, you could reduce it. I'm just going to leave it at 100. Gear ratio. This isn't going to affect how your model flies if you're using external governor, but it will affect the logging, which we'll get to here in a little bit. If you like to pull logs in the Sproto platform to analyze how your power system's doing, I'm just going to go ahead and set the gear ratio that I have in the model that this speed controller is going into. So 9.385. Pole pair, it's got 10 poles. So that's 5 pairs. Current measurement adjustment, I'm going to leave that there. If your current telemetry or your battery telemetry is off, you could come in here and mess around with it so it's more accurate. Maximum RPM detection correction, this has to do if you're using the speed controller's internal governor. So look in the manual for more details on that, but I don't need to touch it. Throttle calibration 0, I'm leaving that. Throttle calibration max, I'm leaving that. CPU temperature logging disabled. Telemetry ID, I'm going to leave at default. External control disabled. Advanced settings disabled. And I'm going to hit upload to save. Okay, on to the next icon down here, settings, files. It just looks like a little piece of paper. This is where we can export settings. So all these changes I made to my speed controller just now, let's say I want to do a future firmware update. I probably want to save all my current settings, and I'll just say current settings here. And I'll just save to my desktop and click save. And then you could load that new firmware and then go to this folder here and click load and then pick that file that you saved earlier. On this next icon, logs, data chart. This is where you can get ESC logs. Let's say your model powered off in flight and you crashed and you're trying to troubleshoot to figure out what's going on. You could plug in your ESC in your computer, open up the Sproto platform here and get the ESC log. And this next icon down here is logs data table. So you'll have some tables here. Let's just click get it ESC log and see what's going on here. Okay, so it loaded this log. This speed controller has never been used. It's been plugged in my computer here. So I'm seeing just a lot of zeros. So it's as easy as that. And that's it. As far as updating the firmware and just getting the basic settings programmed on your new Scorpion Tribunis 3 speed controller. Okay, I'm just going to go over quickly before this video ends the various ports on one end of your Tribunis 3 speed controller. The M, that's your master. So your servo cable is going to plug in here, and then the other end is going to plug into your ESC port on your flybarless controller. The S, or slave, that's going to plug in to your RPM port. So the signal wire is sending RPM, and then the black and the red will be a secondary source of power to your flight controller. The P, this is going to be my telemetry. So I'm going to have a cable plugged in to the P port here, and the other end's going to be plugged in to my telemetry port on my flybarless controller. If you're using V-bar, you're going to have a special cable. It's got a standard servo connector plugging in here, and then the other end of that cable's that mini JST connector that plugs into the side of your V-bar unit. And the F, that is if you run a fan, that'll be powering the fan when your speed controller exceeds whatever temperature you set it to in the Sproto platform. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.